In 2002, a resident of Villa San Rafael in Calama in Chile, working in his yard, was alerted to the sound of his dog's barking. As he stepped onto his patio and began walking towards his house, he realized that he had left the patio door open, which led into the kitchen. As he looked inside, he was shocked to see what was causing his dogs to get so riled up. It was a strange creature unlike anything he had ever seen before. He described it as very small, about 15 inches in height. The dogs frantically tried to bite it, and the strange creature reacted by screeching loudly at them. Because of this, the witness was able to see that it had 2 long teeth in the upper part of the mouth and 2 smaller ones on the lower jaw. Its tongue was long, he guessed about 9 inches, and similar to that of a snake. The inside of its mouth was a dark green color. It had almost no hair, and the texture of its skin reminded him of that of a newborn baby. He also observed what looked like a scrotum filled with liquid, but given how bizarre this creature was, he was unsure if it was male or female. Also, it had a strong stench that he likened to sewage. The creature was fighting for its life and filled with panic. At one point, one of the dogs nearly managed to bite off one of its legs. The creature swatted at the dog with its paws, keeping them at bay. Shortly afterwards, it began to violently jump from side to side, ramming itself against the metallic fruit container and the kitchen sink. The witness got the sense that this activity probably hurt the creature, and he was unsure why it was doing it. Eventually, the little creature rushed towards the open door. The witness attempted to shut the door, but he was too slow. The creature slipped through, just barely. Some hair from the creature's leg had apparently gotten ripped out as it passed through. From there, it made its way up the side of the house and out of the yard. The witness watched as it scurried away toward his neighbor's house. He eventually lost sight of it. When the witness told his mother, she confessed that she too had seen the little creature only 2 days earlier. It was on the roof of their house, over their laundry room in the back. The creature jumped onto some mesh that they used for shading, which collapsed notably when the creature landed on top of it. To her, the creature appeared disoriented and clumsy. The woman and her son believed that the strange creature was a chupacabra, which had been reported by other people in the area around that time. After the dog skirmish, an associate of Vigorillo Sanchez Ocheca was asked to go and speak to the family. He pulled up to their house at approximately 8:30 p.m. and immediately took note of a white Toyota Hilux van with an extra cab, which was parked on the left side of the road. He noted that that part of the road was kind of dark. From there, he noticed 2 men dressed in black suits standing by the vehicle. Their suits were noticeably scuffed, covered in dust and dirt. To him, it looked as if they had been rolling around on the ground. One of them was holding something in his arms, an animal that screeched a lot. He could also see small paws struggling to escape out of the man's arms. Vigorillo's associate could not believe what he was seeing. When the 2 men realized that they were being watched, he noticed that their expressions changed to that of fear. They quickly got in their vehicle with the creature and tore off down the road at a high rate of speed. He suspected that they had been wrestling on the ground with the small animal, which was most likely the same animal that he had been called to the residence to take a report on, mere moments before he arrived. The associate immediately alerted Vigorillo, who assembled a team to inspect the area and talk to witnesses. They managed to find a piece of skin, a section of a ram similar to the ones roosters have on their feet, as well as a small quantity of hair. Much of this was discovered in the area where they believed that the strange men in black had wrestled and ultimately captured the creature. In West Dade County, Florida, on March 6, 1996, at around 11 p.m. in the evening, Teed Carbala de Trinidad, a nurse's aide at a local boarding home for the elderly, looked out the window and observed a strange 6-foot-tall creature, tan in color with a large head, walking swiftly around the yard. It was bipedal and appeared to walk slightly hunched over. The sight of this thing terrified her, and she began to panic, unsure of what to do. Eventually, she lost sight of it as it disappeared behind a wall. The next day, goats and chickens were found dead and mutilated on the property and at other locations in the surrounding area. Accompanying these dead animals were bizarre-looking tracks. Albert Rosales, author of the Humanoid journals, who was, at the time, working with MUFON, was called out to the area with 2 other investigators to take measurements and speak with the witness. I talked to Albert about what he saw. I remember being at the scene of the encounter and finding 2 round holes on the neck of one of the dead goats. After a while, a greenish liquid began oozing out of the holes. The strangest aspect of the case, Albert recalled, was what happened next. He recalled that a man soon arrived on the scene and was driving a white Chevy pickup truck. He collected the dead goat, the one with the greenish substance oozing from its wounds, and placed it in his pickup truck. He told Albert and the 2 other investigators that he worked at a local university and that he had been called out to collect the animal up. He gave them a name and insisted that they would be in touch. However, Albert never heard back. Working in law enforcement in Florida, Albert tried to track down who this individual was and what they did with the goat. He called the university and was informed that nobody by that name worked there. Further, the witness at the scene had not called anybody except for MUFON, and certainly had not called a local university to collect up any animals. Even if she had, it doesn't explain why that single goat, the one with the green ooze pouring from its wounds, was the only one to be collected. Even today, something about that encounter still disturbs Rosales. He simply cannot understand why he and the other investigators on the scene allowed this strange man to just drive off with the goat before they could collect samples. There were 3 of us there, and we didn't try to prevent it, he noted. This reminds me of the Joe Borda case in which Farmer Borda found 3 strange men on his property collecting samples. When asked what they were doing, these men simply told Borda to leave and not come back. Rather than question them further, Borda turned and walked back to his house. Under normal circumstances, Borda would have demanded identification or asked them to leave. For some reason, he didn't. He merely complied. In 2012, investigator Donna Fink and her friend were investigating an area of Rock County between Milton and Whitewater in Wisconsin when they encountered a strange creature that they described as a half-boy, half-werewolf. 1 week earlier, they had been out at the location looking into some Bigfoot sightings. While trudging through the woods, they began to hear a loud buzzing sound, the type of noise that a transformer might give off. It got very loud and then faded away. Both Donna and her friend found it to be both strange and unsettling. A week later, they headed back out to that location, a fairly remote area, the kind with lots of woods and farmers' fields. This is when they had the encounter with the strange creature. Fink saw it first while driving. It was walking down the side of the road. Fink assumed it was a normal teenage boy, as he was wearing a plaid shirt, a partially zipped up navy blue hoodie, blue jeans, and tennis shoes. Though everything changed when it looked up at Donna and her friend. He had his head down when we first saw him walking along the shoulder. We were headed the other direction. He looked normal at first until he looked up at us. The reason why he looked odd then was because he had huge teeth and matted hair, like he had been living under a rock or under a bridge or something. When we saw him, we both screamed at the same time. Fink claims that she immediately thought of it as a mix between a werewolf and a teenage boy. She described it as having large flat teeth, which were dirty and twice the size of human teeth. It had dark rims around its eyes, with a normal-looking nose. Its hair was long, filthy, and matted, which contrasted its clothes, which appeared clean. Fink got the feeling that the creature was acknowledging the oddness of the situation. He looked at us as though, I know you and you know me and you know what I am. They contemplated stopping their vehicle to examine the creature, but Donna and her friend became frightened. We were going to go down the road, pass him by, because I was almost afraid that he would turn into a wolf. I know it's crazy, but that's what went through my head, was that he would turn into a wolf and jump into the back of the pickup truck and turn into a wolf and do something bad to us, and so I didn't want to stop and pull over where he was because I did not want to be that close to him. He frightened us. Donna and her friend knew that there was a cemetery up ahead, and they decided to pull into the cemetery and wait, with cameras ready, for this strange werewolf boy to walk by. They intended on snapping as many pictures of it as they could. We were going to pull up there and get pictures and video while we were still in the locked vehicle, so he couldn't get at us. We were sitting there and we see a white van coming from this direction, going that way, the opposite direction. He was walking and my girlfriend said, "They're going to pick him up." And I said, "They're not going to pick him up. Who would pick him up? Take a look at him. Nobody's going to give that kid a ride." Donna claims the van was a white double-decker panel van with no markings on it. To her, it looked brand new. She claims that they watched as the van passed the boy, then made a U-turn in the road before pulling up alongside the boy. Sadly, where Donna and her friend were situated in the cemetery, their view was partially obscured by a pair of trees. They couldn't tell if there was one or two people in the white van, though somebody got out, and Fink was able to see that he was dressed in normal-looking clothes, a t-shirt and pants, not a uniform. They made a U-turn, pulled up along next to that kid. The one guy got out, the driver did, and I couldn't see if there was another guy in the van because of those two trees. But they pulled over and the door opened on the side of the van, and I don't know whether they put him in or he got in on his own. Once inside, the van made a U-turn and took off down the road at a high rate of speed. Donna and her friend quickly pulled out onto the road and attempted to follow the strange vehicle to no avail. We were right behind them, and we went 70 miles an hour down this highway all the way into Whitewater, and we could never find or catch that vehicle again. We looked down every side street. We looked down each driveway. We looked down every direction you could, and we should have been right on that truck's tail. And that truck disappeared. That van disappeared completely with that whatever that was, shapeshifter. That's something just inexplicable to me.